Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Fired up, you're with us. Got one more hour here. We'll toss the baton over to Matt Moscone and AFR. He'll be with you until 6 o'clock. Last full work week of the year for a lot of folks. We'll get you to the finish line here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. And I'm excited for tonight to watch a little college football playoff action. I know there are a lot of people that didn't love the idea of expanding the playoffs. I know there are a lot of people that don't feel like they should be watching teams in a playoff that they don't feel have a chance to win the national championship. I don't feel that way. I'm very excited to watch these games. We're going to talk about Tennessee and Ohio State at the end here, and I'll tell you, like, that is what they made this thing for, and I'm super pumped for that game. But tonight we get Indiana and Notre Dame, which is an in-state matchup, which I think is really, really cool. South Bend is 200 miles from Bloomington. That's the same distance from Baton Rouge to Mobile for those that have gone that way, gone east to the beach or whatever have you. And it's not very far, and I'm assuming Indiana will bring some folks there, but it ought to be an incredible environment. 29 degrees up in South Bend. This game, though, I'm starting to feel pretty strongly about, and this is exactly what Vegas wants. I won't wager on the game, but they'll have me right where they want me if I were going to wager on the game, because I look at statistics and I go, okay, Indiana is fourth in the country in rushing success rate allowed. They're great up front on defense. Notre Dame is a really good running team. They're second in the country in yards per carry, but Indiana should be able to hold up there. And then you look at Indiana, they're first nationally in passing success rate on offense. Notre Dame is number 1 against the pass. That's another evenly matched side of the football with Indiana's, with Curtis Rourke and that passing attack. But I can't get past this. I just cannot get past this. And look, I was listening to Live at Lunch earlier today, and Charles Handegriff laid out what happened in the Indiana-Ohio State game, and his points were valid. He was like, it was a little bit quote-unquote flukish at times with some of the things that happened right before the end of the half. Indiana was in that game more than the score may have represented. But this is what I can't get past with Indiana. They had 153 total yards at Ohio State. 153 yards. And then you would look at that and go, well, maybe it was one of those games where Ohio State had the ball the whole time. Y'all remember that Vanderbilt had the ball the whole game against Alabama. They had like 41 minutes of possession time in that game. And that would stand to reason if that were the case, that could be a part of the reason why the Indiana couldn't move the ball. No, they won time of possession in the game against Ohio State. It was barely, but they had over 30 minutes of possession time, and they couldn't move the ball. They had 153 yards of offense in that game. And you look at Notre Dame, they've played a couple of good teams, not a lot, but a couple, and have been able to run the ball. Like, they ran it for 198 yards at Texas A&M. They ran the ball for 258 on USC. I'm not suggesting the Notre Dame schedule was tough. I would suggest actually the opposite. I think it was pathetically light. But they have shown up and played and shown it when they've had an opportunity. And for me, when Indiana got one chance, they got 153 yards. I don't love that. I like Kirk Cignetti's brazen nature. I love that he's brash. I love that he's put Indiana on the map. He's in this position because their schedule's a joke. That's the only reason Indiana's in this position. And I'm pulling for him tonight. I hope they win. I think the fact that it's an in-state matchup is cool. I think Notre Dame is going to control these dudes because I think Notre Dame's got a bunch of 4-star recruits. I think Notre Dame's got guys that are going to play in the NFL, and I don't think Indiana has it. I think Indiana has a bunch of James Madison transfers. That's what I think Indiana has. And Hester thinks I'm a clown for dogging on Indiana and dogging on SMU and dogging on Arizona State. He's probably right. I probably am. Probably need to get the big shoes out and the honk nose. But I think Indiana's a fraud, and I think Notre Dame's going to handle them. That's where I am on this game. I think the Indiana is purely in this position because of their schedule.
Okay, but what has Notre Dame done to suggest that they have a much more talented team than Indiana?
Ran it for 198 on A&M.
And in the first game of the season when Connor Wegman was playing quarterback,
yeah, but that's the run game.
They weren't good.
And that's an A&M defensive line that's good. And they ran it down their throats. And then against USC, who's not great, I know, but we saw their defense. It was improved. They ran it for 258 on them. Indiana's doing a bunch of stuff against Northwestern. I don't care. Doing a bunch of stuff against like Rutgers. I don't care. Like I think that if I made their schedule and I put Penn State, Ohio State at Wisconsin on the schedule, they would have 3 losses. Like they are here because the Big Ten accidentally did them a favor.
Okay.
And I do like Kirk Cinetti, and I'm pulling for him. I don't want Notre Dame to win. I want Indiana to win tonight. And I want to come here on Monday and go, yeah, that was not bad. I'm an idiot. But I just think that they got one chance, and they got 153 yards. That doesn't work for me. So that's my thought on the first game. Let's talk Clemson and Texas as well. Look, this is the 12-5 game. Texas' defense is real salty. They are number 1 in the country in yards per play. And they're second in the country in points per drive allowed. That's from Bill Connolly's piece on the analytics earlier on this game on ESPN.com. But Texas has been bad on offense. 20 points against Arkansas, 17 at Texas A&M, 19 against Georgia. Quinn Ewers has been hurt. I get it. But they have not played well on offense. So Clemson's chance here is to get after Quinn Ewers and try to force him into some bad decisions. They've got one great edge rusher, TJ Parker. He's got 6 sacks and 12 TFLs in the last 5 games. He's going to have to get after Quinn Ewers, and they've got to force Texas into some turnovers. I just don't think that the likelihood is that Clemson can get the ball and drive a lot on this Texas defense. I don't think they have proven that. This game does feel to me like it's going to be a grinded out game. It's going to be a game that's played with the run game heavily. Texas does like to throw a lot of quick passes, but I think the run game is going to dictate this. I think the clock's going to move. I like the under in this game. I think 12 points feels like a lot in this game. I don't think Clemson is great. I think Texas will probably win, but would it shock me if this was a 20-10 game? It would not, and that would be a cover on a 12-point line. So, again, this is another one of these big brand matchups in a big stadium on a great campus. This is exactly what we've been looking for from the college football playoff. I don't think Clemson is great. I do think Cade Klubnik is pretty good, but I feel like that Texas's offense is limiting them in a big way here. So I'll take Clemson in the points in that game. I will lay the points with Notre Dame in the one before that. You give Clemson any shot to go to Austin, Texas and win this game?
No.
None. I'll ask you the same question you just asked me. What has Texas done to show that that's...
You're right, except for the fact that I think Texas at home, it's going to be an incredible atmosphere.
They're geeked up in Texas.
Yeah,
they're raising money. They got McConaughey out there. They feel like they've kind of arrived.
Yes.
Even though their offense hasn't looked great. They're going to be fired up.
And I don't think Clemson is very good.
That's very possible. I just don't really care how good they are tomorrow. I care how good they are on Labor Day. So we'll see. What would this town be like if we were about to have a playoff game with Clemson or Notre Dame or Penn State coming here?
Pretty loud.
We got to get that done. That's got to happen. I realize that if you play this weekend, you don't have a bye, and that means that you've had some setbacks. But it's just, I can't wait till LSU can punch a ticket to that. I got to think. And then over the next 5 years, how many playoffs does LSU make?
2.
That's probably the chalk.
Yeah,
I would be surprised if they made 4. I'd be real disappointed if they only made 1.
I agree.
Just got to get to 10-2. The Tennessee was the model this year. They found a way to beat Bama. They did stub their toe and lost at Arkansas, and then they lost the big game to Georgia. But that was enough, and that's all LSU's got to accomplish. And they couldn't get it done this year. But those are going to be. I can't wait to watch Indiana Notre Dame in the snow tonight, and then Clemson Texas tomorrow should be. That's the big brands in the big stadium. I'm pumped for that one as well. We still got to talk SMU and Penn State. Still got to talk Vols, Ohio State, and of course we've got to talk about the Tigers and the Privateers on the hardwood on Sunday. I know you're all just anxiously awaiting that segment coming up in about 20 minutes. We'll step aside. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back and talk about the other 2 college football playoff games. I'll give you my pick against the number in those as well. You can fade that at your preference. So come back after a timeout on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com. I tell you about the capabilities that AVSS has every day. They do a fantastic job with audio and surround sound and home entertainment systems. They're great on the video aspect as well. They've done fantastic work with our security system and can do the same for you. However, what I want to highlight today is just the customer service aspect of AVSS. We've got Mitchell Fisher's cell phone number. It's the same number I give you every single day. And my wife won't hesitate to shoot him a text and say, hey, we got an issue with this. This happened. Like our remote was messing up. We think Myers pressed something, honestly, earlier this week. My wife texted Mitchell. He actually went in remotely and fixed it in 10 minutes. It was fantastic. That's the kind of customer service that you get from a local company right here in Baton Rouge, and that's what AVSS is. If you're just outside of Baton Rouge in our listening area, they're happy to help you as well. Here's Mitchell's cell phone, 225-439-7920. Again, 225-439-7920. You can check them out online at avssla.com, and I always give you the Instagram because there's some cool stuff on there as well. AVSS_BR is where you can find them there. It's audio, video, security solutions. Check them out online, avssla.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
All right, continuing our discussion about the college football playoffs. Of course, on Fridays, we're brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. You can check them out online, corksfishandshrimp.com. Two games we haven't discussed, SMU Penn State and Tennessee Ohio State. SMU Penn State, Happy Valley tomorrow, 27 degrees, the expected temperature at kickoff time for those Texas boys to go up there. And I never really, I know how I feel about cold. I despise it. I don't want to be anywhere near cold. I am perfectly fine in July around here when it's 102. I don't care. I can go for a run in the morning. I can go play golf. I don't want to deal with 19 degrees. That just is not my cup of tea. I don't want to put on 1,000 clothes. I hear people say all the time, well, you can put on more clothes. You can only take off so many. I'm okay with just a little sweat. I don't want my fingers to hurt or have to put on 6 pair of gloves because it's freezing outside. And that's what you're going to deal with. But I didn't know what football players thought about it. And now that I've talked to a lot of people and worked with people that have played in the NFL, Brandon Taylor, Jacob Hester, Jeremy Hill, they all said, they're Southern boys, like when that NFL schedule came out, they looked at December and January like, where do we have to go? And we'll talk about it with the Saints certainly coming up on Monday night, but they don't want to go up in the cold. And I don't know how those Dallas boys are going to feel going up there when it's 27 degrees, but Penn State's probably going to feel at home, and we'll see if that matters in this game at all. I go back to that game LSU played against Arkansas in 2014. It was Brett Bielema's first SEC win, and it was 20 degrees, and LSU didn't score a point in that game. It was Brandon Harris and Leonard Fournette, and it did not go well in the cold for that squad. So we'll see what SMU can do. Y'all know the story on Penn State by now. Here's the numbers. They're 32-1 as a favorite in the last 4 years. 32-1. As an underdog, they're 0-6. When they punch up, they get smacked. And I don't know what to make of this game. My gut tells me, yes, the stakes are big. And so that would lead you to believe that Penn State can't rise up. But it's more about the opponent than it is the stakes of the game. And the opponent, in my opinion, is not that good. That's another one that drives Jake nuts when I say that, but I don't respect SMU because they beat Pittsburgh at football. You beat the Steelers, I'll pay attention. The Panthers, I'm not that doesn't do anything for me. So I don't think SMU is one of these teams like Ohio State, like Michigan, that Penn State can't get over the hump against. I think they're like Purdue and Rutgers and Wisconsin and Minnesota, and Penn State does fine in those games. I think Penn State's going to be fine in this game. Now, they rolled up 523 yards of offense on Oregon, which was really good in the Big Ten, but they gave up 45 points, which is certainly concerning. Well, I don't think SMU is very good. I don't think 1-60, they're uber talented. I have watched enough of Kevin Jennings to know that he is good. He is really good. And for SMU to win this game in Happy Valley, in the playoffs, against Penn State, on this stage, he's going to have to ball. Y'all realize against Clemson, he threw it 50 times and ran it 10 more. He is what makes SMU go. I just think that the dudes, and Penn State recruits at a top 10 level annually, and SMU does not. And I know that doesn't mean everything to everybody, but it means something to me in this game. So I think Penn State wins the game. Am I comfortable enough to say that they're going to win the game going away? Am I comfortable to say they're going to win the game by 20 points? I am certainly not. But I think that Penn State is going to win this game, and I don't think that SMU is going to have the ball with a chance to win it late. I think that it's comfortable in that way for Penn State. I haven't seen the number since this morning, so let me check and make sure nothing's moving. 9 is the number. That feels about right. It's right where I'm thinking that this will be. I don't think SMU gets dusted by 28. I don't think they have the ball down 3 with a chance to go win it. And so I don't know where I would play it on the 9-point line. I'd probably take Penn State, but I think
What was that record you gave whenever they were?
that's the exact point I'm making. So when they're a favorite, they're 32-1. When they're an underdog, they're 0-6.
There you go.
But that's opponent based, not spot based. And this opponent, I think, is not good.
I don't think SMU. I think Penn State, I think, has a more talented team than SMU. But at the same time, Penn State is kind of like Indiana, where when they had their tough task, they faltered.
But they at least scored a bunch of points on Oregon. They just couldn't stop them.
Yeah, but I mean, still, it either way, whether or not they score a lot of points or they don't score a lot of points and lose by 7 or 10, I mean, it's still a loss, and it still just doesn't really give you an idea of how good Penn State really is.
I think they're better than SMU, and I like the fact that their tight end Tyler Warren has 1,000 yards receiving. That's pretty dope.
That's pretty good.
Tight end to make that happen in college football. So that one's at 11 o'clock tomorrow. I will. I don't know what I would do with that number, but I think Penn State is going to win the game, and this is the one I just can't wait to talk about. When they conjured up this playoff and decided they were going to play a round of home games, as much as I'm excited about watching Indiana Notre Dame, and as much as I will tune into SMU Penn State, the big brands in the big venue with the big stakes and the NFL players and the 5-star recruits, that is what I want to see more than anything. And that's what we're getting with this game, Tennessee and Ohio State. It's the power T, the checkerboard end zones of Tennessee. It's the Buckeyes. It's the script Ohio. Like, it's everything that I want in this playoff, and I'm so fired up to watch this game. Beck, we have talked about this probably more than we should have, but I just can't get it out of my head. I'm so perplexed by this complex that Ohio State has, that while they're playing for a national championship and Michigan is a dumpster fire, they're more concerned with 3 hours against Michigan than they are trying to win 3 games and play for a national championship. I cannot get this out of my brain, and it fascinates me to no end. And when they pan in on that stadium, I want to see how much orange is in that stadium.
It's going to be a decent amount, I think.
Because if that fan base has checked out on playing for a national championship, when they got as good a chance as anybody to win this thing, they went to Eugene, Oregon, and played those guys straight up, and they're the 1 seed. And they're checked out because they can't get over the freaking Michigan game 3 weeks ago. That blows my mind, and that fan base deserves what they get if they lose this game.
Yes, I'm with you.
I mean, they want to focus all of this on 0-4 against Michigan, and they don't want to focus on the fact that Ryan Day is recruiting like crazy and beating everybody else and putting them in position every single year. And it's just so weird to me. And Tennessee fans are as fired up as they've been probably since 2007, maybe since 2001 when LSU beat them in the SEC championship when they were going to go to the Rose Bowl to play for a national championship, maybe since 98 when they won the championship. But they are geeked up about Josh Heupel, about the direction of this program, about the fact that they were in the doldrums for 15 years, getting crushed by Saban and being non-competitive against Florida and losing all those games against Georgia. And now they've kind of emerged from that a little bit, and they feel like they've got a chance. I'm curious to see how many people they can get into that stadium. This game, to me, comes down to how well Nico Iamaleava plays. I think that's the biggest variable. We have seen games this year where he has just looked lost. He was terrible against Arkansas. I would submit he was bad against Oklahoma in that game. I think he's played a little bit better of late. I thought he was functional against Georgia. And I think that he's got the ability to be a really good player, but he's also got the ability to stink it up. When I look at, like, Curtis Rourke, I don't think is going to go out there and throw 4 interceptions in the game tonight. I don't think Dylan Gabriel is going to lay an egg for Oregon. Like, you start to look at some of the quarterbacks, and those guys are very, very reliable. Drew Aller is not going to win the Heisman anytime soon, but he's got some talent, and he's taking care of the ball. I worry about Nico laying an egg, and that is something that is in his bag that you just have to avoid if you're Tennessee. And Ohio State's got good enough players on defense to make it a long day for him. I think that when you look at Ohio State and Tennessee, when Ohio State has the ball, I think that Ohio State is going to move it, and they're probably going to score somewhere in the neighborhood of like 24 points. Like, I don't think there's a lot of variable there. I could see Tennessee scoring 28. I could see Tennessee scoring 6 because Nico, to me, is a variable. They're going to try to run the ball. They've got one of the best running backs in the country. We know that. But Nico is who it comes down to. He's going to have to play on third down, and he's going to have to play in the red area. And if he does that, I think Tennessee's got a real chance to win the game. Without knowing what the psyche is of Ohio State, without knowing what that stadium is actually going to look like, I am going to take Ohio State in this game. That's another number that was moving as of this morning. As I look at it, it's 7. That's right on the number. I saw 6.5 earlier too. At 7, I probably take Tennessee to cover that number. I think these defenses are going to be really good. I think there's going to be a lot of running the ball. Quinshon Jugson's, Travion Henderson, we know that for Ohio State. And then obviously Dylan Sampson for Tennessee has been phenomenal. Going to be cold. Going to be, I think, a slobber knocker. I like the under 46.5. And I like Ohio State to win, but maybe not cover the 7 in a game that feels 20-17-ish to me. So I'll take the home team, but I think Tennessee is live here, and they absolutely can win the game. It's a tough draw for Tennessee, having to go to Columbus and then having to play Oregon on the west part of the country. But I think that I like Ohio State to win the game. You give the Vols a fighting chance?
Yeah, I've been a higher on them, I guess.
I got that right in power rankings early. I had them in the top 3.
Yeah, you did. But yeah, I definitely give them a chance. I have this whole season, and this is going to be a close game. I do agree with you. It's probably going to be the under. Both pretty good defenses, good running games. But I'll take Tennessee. I think they have better wins, and they played a tougher schedule than Ohio State. So I'll take the Vols, even on the road. I think there's going to be a lot of orange in that stadium.
You feel like with LSU last year, when you're looking at that defense that they fielded, that was just so bad, but a historic offense that was just humming, and you're like, man, if we could have just paired a defense with that offense. If you're Tennessee, you're going, why couldn't we have fielded this defense with Hendon Hooker? Yeah. That's the magic potion. But that Tennessee offense was so good, and they could not stop anybody that year. They let Spencer Rattler throw for 1 million on them in Columbia. Gave up 60 points in that game. This Tennessee defense is legit. I just worry about the guy under center for him, in the shotgun for him. But I do submit that he could throw for 260 and 3 scores, and if he does that, they're going to win. That's why I think that he's the biggest variable. I realize it's not the hottest take or the most nuanced take to say, hey, the quarterback probably needs to play well to win this game. But he's to me the biggest variable in this game. Kyle McCord, Will Howard. Kyle McCord moved on and led the nation in passing. I think that Ohio State's quarterback is fine. I don't think that there are ebbs and flows like there are with Nico this year. So we'll see. Give me the Buckeyes to win, the Vols to cover in that one. So that's a look at all 4 games in the college football playoff. I'm pumped up for a little South Bend football tonight. First time since the 60s that anybody but NBC has broadcast a game inside Notre Dame Stadium. So should be a great setting. Touchdown Jesus, Golden Domes, and Indiana, who probably shouldn't be there. That's for you, Hester, even though he's doing a show and he's not listening to me. But he got cranky with me this morning. Said it was bad a take as he's ever heard on the radio.
Whoa!
That I didn't think that SMU and Indiana were good.
And Arizona State. That's strong.
He's having Cam Scadaboo on his show, SiriusXM, today. And he told me he was going to tell him that this idiot in the office thinks that Arizona State's not good.
There's some Baltimore material.
Yeah, just give it to him. They're still not good. You don't get to play. You don't get a bye because you beat Iowa State in football.
We shall see.
He said, "You're an SEC elitist." I said, "Yes, I am," because the SEC wins at everything. That's why I'm an elitist.
We shall see, Hunt, if you are proven correct or not.
That's the beauty of this medium. It's all recorded. It's all on camera. You can find it all on YouTube. I got nowhere to hide. These are the takes, and I'm sticking to them. We'll come back and get you ready for LSU hoops on Sunday. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Got to make LeBears Baton Rouge your game day headquarters this season. You can start tonight at LeBears. I don't think you're going to see Cassie there because apparently she was there last night and may have had a few beverages. She probably won't be at the sportsbook, but you can go to the sportsbook at ESPN Bet and have a big old time and watch the college football playoff. Go tomorrow. It's going to be wall-to-wall football in there and should be a fantastic place to tackle the area's best game day food and beverages with all your friends. You can get in on the basketball and football action this winter with the Penn Play app and ESPN Bet. Penn's online sportsbook now live in Louisiana. You can score big this season with LeBears Baton Rouge however you want to play. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 for help.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
All right, about half an hour to go here in our work week on the Hunt Palmer Show. We're brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. They're on Government between Foster and Jefferson. Check out that menu, corksfishandshrimp.com. Beck, UNO has got to spend some more money on their Google spend, because when you search UNO basketball on Google, I found this out this morning when I was prepping for the segment, you get Nebraska Omaha.
That's
University
not
of New Orleans.
That's not acceptable.
So it's time
go
for
privateers.
UNO's got to up their Google spend and find a way to get to the top of the search page when you search UNO.
Well, I tell you
basketball.
this: if they were good, then they may be at the top.
They were good under Coach Schlesinger, but
they were for a little bit.
He left, and now they're not good. They're 2-8 on the season. They opened at Kansas State this year and lost that game by 24 points. They lost a game to something called Stonehill. Again, another instance of teams that LSU plays in basketball that are playing against teams that I've never heard of. Last week we had New College of Florida, and this year we have Stonehill. And unfortunately, I have to tell you that UNO lost to Stonehill by 26 points. That is not very good.
Stonehill Skyhawks, Hunt.
I don't know. They have some wings on their S, which is
they're the Skyhawks. I don't know what a Skyhawk is, but
I don't think that's real.
It's real.
But UNO has been battle tested outside of the Stonehill game. I mentioned they were at Kansas State. They also went to Baylor, who is ranked. They played that game and lost by 29 points. They went to Iowa and played, lost that game by 43 points. They went to Texas and played and lost by 36. So this is a team in UNO that has played a lot of big brands, collected a lot of checks, not doing a lot of winning or competing at this point. You look at the latest net rankings. UNO is 339th in the country. There are only 364 teams. Unfortunately, the 364th ranked team is Mississippi Valley State, who LSU sees next weekend. But this is not going to be an uber competitive game. I don't believe UNO is going to come in here like Stetson and miss 16 shots in a row to start the game. They certainly could, but it's not about UNO. It's about LSU in this basketball game, and that's pretty clear. At this point, I'm going to pretty much stick to the same two keys to the game when watching LSU against these garbage teams. And it's defensive rebounding, where they've got to be better, and it's turnovers. And those are things you can clean up. And I thought LSU did a pretty good job in the Stetson game of both. They turned the ball over 11 times, and one of them was at the very end of the game by Noah Boyd, who doesn't really play. So you're looking at 10 by the meaningful players. And you didn't really allow Stetson to get to the offensive glass, even though they kept missing shots. So they had 41 misses in the game, and they only got 7 offensive rebounds. So I think that was a positive in the game against Stetson. From a personnel perspective, I'm now a little bit more intrigued with Curtis Givens, and it has less to do with the stat sheet that said 6 assists and 1 turnover for him and 3 made threes back in the game on Wednesday. It's less about that, and it's more to me about the way that he plays. We were talking to Chris Blair yesterday. I said that I had been a little bit underwhelmed with Curtis Givens, especially just his intensity is the wrong word. It's like conviction is what I'm talking about. He just, to me, seemed to be playing a little bit timid. When I turned on Curtis Givens' highlight tape in high school, I saw a guy that was attacking. I saw a guy that was making plays. I saw a guy that was under control but aggressive. And when I watched Curtis Givens through his first month of college, and keep in mind, it's his first month of college. I'm not trying to absolutely throw the kid out. I'm just saying, it's just a lot of hanging on the perimeter, easy passes, risk-averse play. And he's a creator. That's what he is. And he flipped something on in the second half against a terrible Stetson team up 40. And he was making quick passes. He was making aggressive plays. He was getting inside the interior of the defense. And while you can't expect exactly what you do against Stetson to transfer over to play in Kentucky or Arkansas or Florida or Auburn, you got to start somewhere, right? And I feel like that the confidence that gets gained in some of these games may help moving forward. We've seen that Mike Williams is not going to play on this team. He's not getting any minutes. He didn't play when they were up 40 against Stetson with 2 minutes to go when they put the walk-ons in. Mike Williams didn't play. So your reserve point guard is 100% Curtis Givens. He's going to play on the road in Rupp Arena, on the road at Bud Walton, on the road at, name your spot, Coleman Coliseum. They're going to go to him, and he needs to develop a little bit of confidence. And if you're going to play these awful teams way down in quad 4 that are going to be resume albatrosses and not competitive and not learn a ton about your team against real good D1 players, you might as well develop some confidence for some guys down the bench. Cam Carter might score 30 on Sunday. I don't really care. But if you can see some development from Curtis Givens, if you can see some development from Robert Miller, if you can see some development, these guys that are younger, Victorious Miller got hot shooting the three in the second half, made 4 of them in the second half on Sunday. But I'm pointing to Givens specifically because of his role. Like, Miller's a scorer, and they're going to put him in, and he's going to try to score. But Givens needs to be more aggressive than he has been in the first month. And I saw a little bit of that against Stetson. So that's like number one for me in this game is get Givens some time and let him go, because you have indicated that Givens is probably an 8 to 11 minute a night point guard in the SEC if Mike Williams is not going to play. I figured coming into the year, Mike Williams would play. He shot it really well in SEC play last year. I thought he ran the point pretty well when Jalen Cook wasn't available and when they weren't having Trey Hannibal or Jordan Wright do it. I thought that Williams looked pretty good, but he's not going to play. So it's going to be Curtis Givens. And I saw a guy that was a little bit of a different player in the second half. I'm excited to see that. Also with Damian Collins, want to see him continue to rebound, block shots, and not turn the ball over. That was a bit of an issue as his playing time increased without Jalen Reed. He was turning the ball over a little bit more. I contended that, hey, he's going to clean that up a little bit. It comes with time. He just hasn't played a lot of basketball. He was not an impact player in a couple of years at Kentucky. He missed all that time last year because of the injury to the shoulder. And so then he missed a little bit of time this year with an injury to his shoulder. So he's just getting in the hang of playing 30 minutes a night. He's never done that at the college level. And you're going to be put in some situations over the course of a 30-minute outing that you weren't when you were playing none or 10. And so I'm excited to continue to watch him. LSU's got to develop those front court players. They were going to count a lot on Jalen Reed this year, and clearly that's not going to be an option moving forward. So you've got to do a good job of getting those guys involved and develop them as you get ready for SEC play. So it'll be LSU and UNO coming up at 2:00 on Sunday inside the Maravich Center. 2 more non-conference games before the nitty-gritty hits with some SEC action right after the turn of the year. It'll be Vanderbilt coming to the PMAC to open that up, and you're going to hear this a couple times between now and then. That is a huge game for LSU because that's one of the ones against the bottom of the league at home. You have to take care of your business in that game. So I'll tell you about that as we move a little bit forward. Some good news for LSU on the transfer portal front. LSU just added a commitment from Texas defensive tackle Sadir Mitchell. This is one that we thought was coming for about a week, and it made it happen. He visited. This is a guy that Bo Davis recruited out of Pennsylvania to go play at Texas, and now he will follow Bo Davis to LSU. Not a guy that was a big impact player at Texas. Realize they're still in the playoffs, so losing him, if he was a starter, that'd be a big deal. He's not. He redshirted in 2023 after playing 4 games, and he played 4 more this year as a freshman. He entered the transfer portal actually on December the 11th, but then didn't. He said he was going to the portal on the 11th, but he hadn't. And he felt like he might go back. Then on the 16th, he made that official. Here we are 4 days later, and Sadir Mitchell has committed to LSU. He wasn't, again, very impactful for the Longhorns. Only made, I think, 8 tackles is what I think I read. He was a 4-star product from On3 ESPN and Rivals. And he's big. He is a big dude. He's 6'6", 340 pounds, and can clog the middle of LSU's defense. You've got Jacobian Guillory, who's coming back to kind of play that anchor role of a guy that just kind of fills a ton of space. But Mitchell kind of figures to be next. He's a little bit different player than Dominic McKinley and Ahmad Bro. Bro is significantly smaller. McKinley's a little wirier. He's a little leaner than Mitchell. Mitchell's an anchor in there. And so I said this when we first got the news that he was visiting. You can never have too many big defensive linemen. The next great LSU team that we see, whether it's this year, this next year, or it's 5 years from now, will have a great defensive line. And Bo Davis has made a career out of building great defensive lines. And this is a guy that he targeted out of high school, a guy that he got to Texas, and a guy that he's comfortable knowing what he knows after coaching him for a year to get him into school at LSU and put him into that defensive front. So now you look at that defensive tackle room, and you've got Jacobian Guillory, and you've got Ahmad Bro, and you got Dominic McKinley, and you bring in Sadir Mitchell, and you've now got some significant beef and some depth in there in the interior. I'm hopeful, really hopeful, that McKinley and Bro emerge into a really tough tandem to deal with. We saw some flashes from those guys, specifically in that game against Oklahoma, where McKinley had 2 sacks, but Bro was in the mix from the start, and that's not something we completely anticipated. He was recruited as basically an edge player and kind of ate his way into the interior. We talked to him about that a few weeks into the season, and he joked about it. But it is what it is, and he's been pretty good in the interior as a freshman. Those guys have now a complete offseason, and to get into fall camp to be big-time pieces on the interior. I thought Jacoby and Guillory had a monster camp in the fall before, obviously, the Achilles injury sidelined him for the year. But you bring in Sadir Mitchell, and this is, again, not a guy that you have to ask to play as a true freshman. He will be a third-year college player and should be ready to help you on the interior. You lose Gio Paez, you lose Paris Shand. You've got to restock those shelves, and I think Bo Davis is doing a pretty good job of that. I'm not here to tell you that Mitchell is automatically going to jump in and just be a huge impact guy, but he was thought of pretty highly by the talent evaluators, thinks highly of by Bo Davis. So this is a good get for LSU. Is Sadir Mitchell leaving Texas? He's going to come to LSU after 8 games in 2 years with the Longhorns. So that's your good news from the transfer portal here on this Friday. I want to remind you about my friends at Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. If you're doing a holiday party, I know it's late for that, but maybe New Year's or catering, or if you've got a game watch party, you want to watch the Tigers coming up on New Year's, how about Corks? They can cater. They're happy to do so. Paul and Michael are the folks that brought you Kuyons across the river. They're great on a catering front. Corks can help you as well. Those big trays of jumbo Gulf shrimp, crispy fried catfish, the shoestring fries are fantastic. They'll bring all the sauces with you. They got your traditionals like your cocktail and your tartar sauce, but the Cork sauce is awesome. Mayo based, but it's got a little tang, a little kick to it. It's really, really good. So if you're thinking of catering, birthday party, work party, office party, end of the year party, whatever the case may be, Cork's always happy to help you that. You can place that order online at corksfishandshrimp.com. Go by and see them on Government between Foster and Jefferson. It's Corks. They bring you our Friday shows each and every week. Step aside. We'll come back for one more segment this week. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. When you think Genesis, think luxury. When you think luxury, don't think, I can't pay for that. You might be surprised. Just go check them out. You can check it out online. There's pricing there available. Every car that's on the lot at genesisofbatonrouge.com is on the lot at Airline Highway in Pico. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. How about a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty? 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. How about valet maintenance? How about complimentary maintenance for 3 years? These are all perks that you can get when you join the Genesis family here in Baton Rouge. It's the only fully exclusive Genesis dealer in the state of Louisiana. So if you're in the state and you want to come on by, they're happy to see you and happy to help you. I've worked with the folks at Genesis now for a couple of months, and I can tell you it's first-class operation over there, and they're happy to help. When you walk into the dealership, you don't feel like a customer who's getting a bunch of pressure. You feel like a guest there, and they'll walk you through the process and get you in a Genesis, and then you can take advantage of that 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Start your process online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Get your picks in now for the Hooters College Football Bowl Pick'em Challenge presented by Yingling. Register at 1045ESPN.com and get your picks in by December 27th. This year's season-long champion will win $1,000 cash and $200 for a Hooters gift card. And then we've also got the college football playoff running through this weekend. Tune in for round 1 tonight at 7 p.m. And, of course, Indiana, Notre Dame, and then continuing tomorrow at 11 a.m. Your home for college football playoff and the national championship is 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Down the home stretch here on a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. As I mentioned, we're brought to you by Corks Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Playoff action begins tonight between Notre Dame and Indiana. 3 more tomorrow. And then NFL. What do we think about the NFL playing on Saturday when college football's got its playoffs?
That's a bit much, and not to mention, so we've got the playoffs tomorrow. We also have and I know most people are going to laugh when I say this, but the FCS are in the semifinals in North Dakota State and South Dakota State. The two
Jackrabbits,
the Jackrabbits and the Bison. Two of the powerhouses in FCS are going to go at it tomorrow at 11 too. So we got football everywhere on every level.
I just don't think the NFL should be playing when college is trying to take the spotlight. And the NFL doesn't give a rip. They're playing on Christmas, which has been the NBA's big day, and they're playing on that now on a Wednesday. They just don't care. They're just, where's the money? Give it to me.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying. I don't mind when we didn't have these playoff games and the NFL wanted to play on Saturday. That's fine because we didn't have any football anyway because college was was not playing. But
you
now,
can mess up the Cure Bowl, the staff.
Yeah,
the
staff
DNA Cure Bowl, that's
Bowl.
fine. Just the playoff, I don't know about that.
Okay.
Like they already hijacked the Egg Bowl and moved that off Christmas. I mean Thanksgiving because the NFL is playing. Like I don't like that.
Yeah, that's
stay in your lane.
We don't need that. Yeah, but
the NFL will not stay in its lane.
No,
the NFL will take
do,
the entire highway and close it. That's what they will do.
They're going to do whatever they want. But on something we talked about at the beginning of the show, the Kinder's Texas Bowl. You are not aware of what Kinder's
still don't
is.
know what that is.
So I'll give you a few options.
There's a town in Louisiana called Kinder.
I'll give you a few options.
Okay.
Number one, so let's say A is a barbecue company.
Okay.
B is a insurance company, or C is a Texas supply chain company.
Okay. I'm going to say no insurance. Spent 7 years in insurance. I never heard Kinder's, so I'm going to go no for insurance. That leaves barbecue and supply chain. Man, that's pretty. Those are good. The made up one is good by you because that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to go with Texas Supply Chain Company. It's a barbecue restaurant. Is it a restaurant or like is it spices?
It's spices, like barbecue. You will probably see these in a store. I've recognized the label after seeing. I didn't know what it was at first, but yeah, I've recognized they do sauces and they do rubs.
I really do like to cook. I'm terrible at it, but I enjoy doing it. And I just don't think I'm ever going to get into the barbecue game. The 13-hour briskets and the whole deal. I love to eat it, and I think that's a bridge too far for me.
Yeah, one thing I'll say is there are a few ways that are a little bit easier than that. Like one time I did some ribs in the oven and they were really good. But it can be challenging.
I'll tell you this: I covered the Outback Bowl when LSU played Iowa in January of 2014, and the amount of Outback that was available that week in the press box. Yeah. So if this is a barbecue deal, they're going to have a lot of spices and rubs and all that
that'd be
stuff.
good. They'll probably have some actual barbecue.
Dave always talks about the Chick-fil-A Bowl in 2008. He was like, by the end of it, we just couldn't do it. He couldn't eat any more Chick-fil-A. So it's just the sponsors get their money's worth that week of bowl activity.
That they do.
Well done by you. Do we have take it or leave it? Are we going to do that?
I don't think we have any.
All right, we got to talk about them wanting me to do the Mississippi State play-by-play in the chat.
Yeah. So one legendary member of the chat, usually known as Pirate. His name is now Bayou John in the chat because I guess he probably forgot his password. But he came in here and mentioned the fact that the legend Jim Ellis.
He is a legend. There's no doubt about that. I've met Jim,
and he is retiring after 47 years of calling the games there in Stark Vegas. And he says that you should Hunt Palmer apply for that job to call the baseball games for the Bulldogs?
I'm not sure what the wife's going to say if I tell her we're packing up and moving to Starkville.
Yeah,
that just doesn't sound like it's going to happen.
Unless you can somehow get it written in the contract that they'll charter you a plane from Baton
it would have to
Rouge
be a plane,
Starkville
for sure.
and every there and back.
The Tuesday night flights to take on Memphis. I don't know if that's going to happen either. I'll tell you this: the Mississippi State fans, and a lot of folks are commenting on the black uniform thing. So when I did a game on LSU's radio. I was doing the LSU Sports Radio Network play-by-play with Buzzy, and they didn't have a TV crew for the baseball game Mississippi State was playing, and so the SC Network feed picked up our broadcast, and I mentioned that the black uniforms were hideous, which of course they were, and Mississippi State fans went ballistic on Twitter. A guy made a handle that was F-word Hunt 1 and like Photoshop pictures of me very crudely. They went and they hated me on Twitter. 2 years later, maybe 3 years later, I did a game with Lynn Rollins on the SEC Network. And they were aware it was an LSU-based crew, but Mississippi State won that game, and I was pretty complimentary of them offensively. It was actually the game where LSU, it was in 2023, the championship year, when LSU blew that huge lead in Mississippi State.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I said some good things about Mississippi State, about their offense and how their pitching just needed to pick it up a little bit, and they would have been a better team. And I found on Twitter a thread from the Mississippi State beat writer, and they were saying how good the LSU broadcast was. So if you say something negative, you're the worst ever. If you say something positive, what a great broadcast. That's very consistent with this.
It is.
But that's just the way fans operate. LSU fans are the exact same way. I've never gotten this guy hates my team thing, and I hate this guy's announcement. Like they're so biased. That stuff drives me nuts because it's generally just completely made up. But Mississippi State fans hated me at one point. Loved me at a different point.
Yeah, now at a different point. So I think maybe since you called that game and were complimentary of the team, that maybe they have forgotten your hatred.
Well, those black uniforms are hideous.
The black uniforms.
I would literally if Vanderbilt offered me a baseball scholarship, I would literally not go there because I knew I had to wear black baseball pants on Fridays. I just wouldn't go. I'm just like, I can't play for you. This is a great university, great baseball program. You're a great coach. I can't wear those uniforms. It's the
only offer you have, and you're not going to take it.
I can't play, coach.
Unbelievable.
I can't wear the softball uniforms.
Incredible.
I can't look like a moron every Friday. I can't do it. That's it for a Friday show here. We're brought to you by Corks. If you missed any of the show, catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com. Anywhere you find your podcasts, wherever that may be, search Hunt Palmer Show. Like, subscribe, rate, and review. I'm out of here for the weekend. Marshman's birthday party coming up. Matt's going to drive you home on AFR. We're back Monday, same time, same place for the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.